asking for the closure of dozens of ICE detention centers across the country, including the Otay Mesa facility here in San Diego. The organization sent a letter to President Biden administration today with their requests, claiming that the centers are inhumane, unnecessary, and a waste of taxpayer money. News 8's Amanda Shotsky has more.
From behind bars to the Biden administration, a letter from the ACLU is hoping to send a clear message to the Department of Homeland Security that dozens of detention centers operating under U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement are cruel and unnecessary.
It results in abuse and people suffering. It also results in wasted taxpayer money.
Otay Mesa Detention Center is on the list of nearly 40 facilities that the ACLU is asking to be completely closed. The organization alleges this past year was one of the deadliest inside the South Bay Center. Failures to respond to COVID-19 leading to an outbreak and the first inmate death from COVID. Attorney Monica Langarica says the pandemic only magnified an already inadequate system.
And it has exposed or subjected people to inhumane and deadly conditions of confinement.
Migrants or asylum seekers are placed inside ICE facilities while they await court dates and hearings, leaving some to wonder what would happen to the inmates if the facilities are shut down.
We know that most people have families and networks that are prepared to receive them. And those people continue to show up to their ICE appointments, to their immigration court hearings.
Most people who are detained for immigration purposes are not being held because they've committed a crime.
The detainment of migrants has gone down significantly over the past year, the ACLU using this as another factor to support their effort to shutter operations as soon as possible.
We are wasting taxpayer dollars to fill empty beds.
So far, the administration has not responded to the ACLU's letter. We reached out to ICE for comment on this story, but did not hear back.
County leaders will decide next week whether to greenlight a pilot program offering attorneys for people who are being held in federal immigration custody here in San Diego. News 8's Richard Allen has more on how much this program would cost, as well as the mixed reaction from some San Diegans.
Well, that's right. And if approved, San Diego would become the first border county in the nation to provide free legal representation for migrants facing deportation proceedings.
Today, we are launching a movement.
County Supervisor Tara Lawson-Remer, who proposed this program Tuesday, called it a lifeline for immigrants facing removal from the U.S. who cannot afford their own attorney.
The fact of the matter is that everyone in this nation, whether you're a citizen or not, has an established right under the U.S. Constitution to be represented by legal counsel.
This one-year pilot program with a proposed budget of $5 million would be run through the county's public defender office, offering lawyers for free to people held at the Otay Mesa Detention Center. If successful, it would then become a permanent resource.
With representation, individuals, they stand a greater chance of avoiding deportation and remaining employed to provide for their spouses and their children.
According to Lawson-Remer, only 5% of immigrants who face deportation proceedings without a lawyer win their case, while those with legal representation are more than 10 times likely to be successful. Ismahan Abdullahi of the Muslim American Society says this provides a fair chance.
A fair chance that is guaranteed already, but that is not upheld.
Reaction to the proposal has been mixed. On social media, while one person responded, "Glad San Diego County is stepping up on this important issue," another wrote, "This will only encourage more endless migration here." And another asked, "How does it make sense for taxpayers to pay for the prosecution and the defense at the same time?" This proposal comes on the eve of President Biden making his first address to a joint session of Congress, marking 100 days in office this week. Immigration is expected to be a key issue, as a new CBS News poll finds that less than half of all Americans currently approve of his handling of immigration policy. And as for this proposal for a county-run legal defense fund for migrants, the Board of Supervisors is set to vote next Tuesday.
With a rise in violence in correctional facilities, advocates and Republican lawmakers are calling to repeal the HALT Act. The bill was implemented in April and restricts the use of solitary confinement in prisons to 15 days. News Channel 34's Amel Taligi has the latest on this controversial legislation.
According to the Vera Institute of Justice, they agree with a vast body of research that shows the serious detrimental effects on mental and physical health of spending 22 to 24 hours per day alone and idle in a cell the size of a parking space. And some long-term physiological impacts of solitary confinement include obsessive thoughts, depression, PTSD, and psychosis, which is why advocates of the bill say the HALT Act was necessary. But correctional facilities say inmates are using this to their advantage. Recent data from the Corrections and Community Supervision cites a spike in violence since the bill was put into effect in April. However, co-sponsor of the bill, Senator Luis Sepulveda, says that's not really the case.
Anything that you want to write up as an assault at a corrections officer, you can write up. So if an inmate walks by and blows too hard in the direction of the corrections officer, that's considered a violent act against the corrections officer.
But Mike Powers says the violence is quite serious. Powers is president of New York State Correctional Officers Police Benevolent Association.
Officers' faces opened with razor blades. We've had officers stabbed. We've got serious hip injuries, knee injuries, concussions, broken eye orbitals.
Powers also adds that the public has the wrong notion of what solitary confinement is and welcomes lawmakers to visit those facilities. Additionally, Powers says he wasn't given the proper resources when the bill was passed.
They created the program. They never spoke with us, the policymakers, the stakeholders, so to speak. They didn't speak with any of us. They just ran with this. They didn't consider the infrastructure changes that needed to happen within our state facilities, which was massive.
Powers wants a full repeal, but says in order for HALT to run properly, they would need more staffing. Reporting in Albany, Amel Taligi.
Violence in correctional facilities, officers and Republican lawmakers now calling to repeal the HALT Act.
The bill was implemented in April and restricts the use of solitary confinement to 15 days. Capitol correspondent Amel Taligi has more on why they're already asking for change.
According to the Vera Institute of Justice, they agree with a vast body of research that shows the serious detrimental effects on mental and physical health of spending 22 to 24 hours per day alone and idle in a cell the size of a parking space. And some long-term physiological impacts of solitary confinement include obsessive thoughts, depression, PTSD, and psychosis, which is why advocates of the bill say the HALT Act was necessary. But correctional facilities say inmates are using this to their advantage. Recent data from the Corrections and Community Supervision cites a spike in violence since the bill was put into effect in April. However, co-sponsor of the bill, Senator Luis Sepulveda, says that's not really the case.
Anything that you want to write up as an assault at a corrections officer, you can write up. So if an inmate walks by and blows too hard in the direction of the corrections officer, that's considered a violent act against the corrections officer.
But Mike Powers says the violence is quite serious. Powers is president of the New York State Correctional Officers Police Benevolent Association.
Officers' faces opened with razor blades. We've had officers stabbed. We've got serious hip injuries, knee injuries, concussions, broken eye orbitals.
Powers also adds that the public has the wrong notion of what solitary confinement is and welcomes lawmakers to visit those facilities. Additionally, Powers says he wasn't given the proper resources when the bill was passed.
They created the program. They never spoke with us, the policymakers, the stakeholders, so to speak. They didn't speak with any of us. They just ran with this. They didn't consider the infrastructure changes that needed to happen within our state facilities, which was massive.
Powers wants a full repeal, but says in order for HALT to run properly, they would need more staffing. Reporting in Albany, Amel Taligi.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kelly Sanchez. Right now, there are plans to move juvenile offenders from the Bridge City Center near New Orleans to here at Jetson and Angola. But today we talked to some activists who are against the plan.
Money for housing, not prison.
Young offenders from the Bridge City Detention Center could soon find themselves locked up at Jetson Correctional or Angola State Prison. The move has activists like Gina Womack outraged.
The system has continued to fail our young people, and by not actually providing the support and services that evidence says that they need.
We don't need young people going to Angola.
Today, folks from the group Friends and Families of Incarcerated Children voiced their concerns.
They're going to come out and be vicious.
Worried children could be housed too close to adult offenders.
No, they have...
According to the Office of Juvenile Justice, juvenile offenders moved to Angola would be in a separate building.
It's the old reception center that will be totally refurbished that we're doing now. It's 1.5 miles away from the nearest adult unit. 1.5 miles.
But Womack says these children need education, rehab, and resources.
It's not the point. The children shouldn't be sent there in the first place. Again, we've been working on supports and regionalization and therapeutic services for the last 20 years.
So far, only one person has been moved out of Bridge City, but some folks think the plans need to be put on hold.
I think, one, we need to put a pause, right? Let's not just have a plan and say we're going to move them to Angola, right? If problems do truly exist at Bridge City, then let's sit down and have a conversation.
The OJJ says the plans are still in the works.
So we've not moved not one youth to a temporary facility like we're talking about. Okay. And when we look at this, and it is a temporary facility, and I can't say that enough, and it is fluid. The whole process is a fluid situation.
The Office of Juvenile Justice says the plans to move inmates is only temporary while they make repairs to the Bridge City Center. We'll have much more information about this.